We Guado are the guardians of the Farplane. Such is our duty and our honor. In the world of Final Fantasy X, there are different cultures and races, each shaping the narrative of Spira in its own way. But few are as hauntingly mysterious or as tragically misunderstood as the Guado. With their tall, spindly forms, sharp features, and otherworldly aura, the Guado seem almost alien compared to humans, Ronso, or Albed. They are a people of paradox, guardians of the spiritual realm, yet shunned by others, a race steeped in tradition, yet undone by ambition. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to explore the Guado in detail, their homeland and culture, their unique connection to the Farplane, their rise under Seymour Guado, and their eventual decline. We'll also dive into how Square's developers envisioned them and what their story ultimately says about faith, loyalty, and loss. If you haven't already, consider becoming a member as the first exclusive video has been posted, and come check out the streams every Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 PM PST on Twitch. Link will be down below. And also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel, as our goal for the end of the year will be to reach 5,000 subscribers. It's a pretty hefty goal, but I think we can all get there. Now, let's begin. The Guado make their home in Guadosalam, a subterranean city hidden beneath the Thunder Plains and the Moonflow. For many players, entering this city for the first time is unforgettable. Roots twist and pulse along the cavern walls, glowing with a soft, otherworldly light. Buildings appear to grow organically from the environment, rather than being carved or constructed. This reflects the Guado's deep bond with the natural world. But there is also unease here. Guadosalam feels quiet, dim, almost too enclosed, like stepping into a living organism rather than a city. The NPCs you encounter, with their elongated fingers and upward flowing hair, greet you with a politeness that borders on unsettling. They remind you that you are a guest in their domain and that their ways are not yours. The proximity of Guadosalam to the Farplane is no coincidence. The Guado are the self-declared guardians of this mysterious place. When the player first visits the Farplane, Seymour Guado explains its purpose with reverence. The Farplane is where the souls of the departed gather. We Guado are honored to watch over this sacred realm. This closeness to death defines the Guado. In a world where sin brings constant tragedy, the Guado live at the threshold between life and the afterlife. This makes them indispensable, but also feared. To many in Spira, they are reminders of mortality, figures who dwell too near the boundary of death to be entirely trusted. The Farplane itself is one of the most iconic locations in Final Fantasy X, a serene field of light and blossoms. It is the place where the Fireflies gather, forming images of the deceased. For most, the Farplane offers comfort. For the Guado, it is a sacred responsibility. Their entire culture revolves around this connection. Their elongated fingers and flowing hair were design choices meant to evoke beings that are half-spirit themselves. Alien, yet elegant. Yoshitaka Amano's original concept art emphasized this liminality, making the Guado appear as if they were part of the Farplane even while they were still alive. Yet, this role as intermediaries comes at a cost. Other races both respect and resent the Guado. Respect because they hold dominion over a place all must visit eventually. Resentment because their closeness to death seems unnatural. This duality, guardians yet outsiders, is central to their identity. For centuries, the Guado lived apart from the greater politics of Spira. They tended their duties, watched over the Farplane, and held themselves as separate. But this changed with the rise of Seymour Guado. Charismatic and visionary, Jiskel became the first Guado to serve as the Maester of Yevon. His appointment brought his people into the heart of Spira's religious and political life for the first time. But it was his son Seymour who truly transformed the Guado's destiny. Seymour was born of two worlds, Jiskel and a human woman. This mixed heritage made him an outcast among the Guado, who valued purity of tradition. Among humans, his Guado features made him equally suspect. In this alienation, Seymour developed a worldview shaped by loss and longing. His philosophy grew darker over time, culminating in his belief that only through embracing death could Spira be freed from sin's endless cycle. When Seymour rose to power as a maester, the Guado saw in him their champion. Here was a leader who embodied both Guado pride and human acceptance, a figure who might lift their people into greater influence. Trommel's devotion reflects this. Lord Seymour is the great hope of the Guado. He will guide us into a new era. Yet Seymour's vision twisted into obsession. Life is but a passing dream, but the death that follows is eternal. His plan to unite with sin to bring eternal rest to Spira corrupted his authority, yet the Guado followed him still. Under his command, they became enforcers of his will. They pursued Yuna and her guardians relentlessly, wielding their command over fiends and the knowledge of Spira's pathways. Despite their outward loyalty, the Guado were not unified. Some questioned Seymour's motives, some saw the madness behind his ambitions, but centuries of tradition bound them. Loyalty to their leader was absolute. To oppose Seymour would have been to betray their culture itself. This silence became complicity. As Seymour's corruption deepened, the Guado were drawn into his schemes, and the world of Spira began to see them not as guardians of the Farplane, but as accomplices to a madman. Where once their reputation was tinged with suspicion, it became outright condemnation. A man who seeks power at any cost will find that the cost is paid by others. For the Guado, that cost was devastating. By the time of Final Fantasy X-2, the Guado are a shadow of their former selves. With Seymour dead and their reputation ruined, their society crumbled. Guadosalam, once alive with strange energy, stands nearly deserted. Trommel, once Seymour's loyal servant, wanders broken and guilt-ridden, lamenting what his people became. In conversations, Trommel confesses his sorrow. His people were too proud. He followed blindly, and now the race of the Guado is alone. His grief is not just personal, it's cultural. A once proud race is now scattered, consumed by guilt, mistrust, and loss. The Guado's decline mirrors the collapse of Yevon itself, a cautionary tale about blind obedience, tradition without question, and the destructive force of ambition. The Guado story isn't just narrative, it's thematic. They represent isolation, cultural pride, and the dangers of unchallenged leadership. Square's developers deliberately made them feel alien. In interviews, the art team explained how their elongated limbs and upward hair made them seem unnatural, as though their bodies themselves were pulled towards the Farplane. Their culture was also influenced by shaman traditions. Like spiritual intermediaries in human history, the Guado live closest to the world of the dead. But where shamans often bring healing and wisdom, the Guado story is one of missed opportunity. They allowed their leader's darkness to eclipse their spiritual duty, and in doing so, lost the very identity that once defined them. The Guado's role in Final Fantasy X is both symbolic and tragic. Symbolic because they embody the dangers of blind devotion, the corruption of spiritual authority, and the weight of cultural pride. Tragic because they could have been so much more. Imagine if the Guado had chosen differently, if they had rejected Seymour, reclaimed their role as guardians of the Farplane, and offered true guidance to Spira. Instead, their legacy is one of silence, complicity, and decline. Yet, this is precisely what makes them memorable. Like many elements of Final Fantasy X, the Guado serve as a mirror for Spira itself, a people burdened by tradition, striving for meaning in a world dominated by death, and undone by their inability to challenge a system or a leader that led them astray. The Guado story lingers long after the game ends. In their rise and fall, we see the dangers of blind faith, the fragility of cultural pride, and the devastating consequences of silence. From their mysterious homeland to their decline under Seymour's shadow, they remind us that an entire people can be defined and destroyed by the choices of one leader. In the world as rich as Spira, the Guado stand out not just for their strange appearance, but for their tragedy. They are guardians turned enforcers, a people undone by loyalty, and a race nearly lost to history. And perhaps that is the great lesson they leave behind. That faith without questioning can become a chain, and that the survival of a culture depends not only on tradition, but on the courage to confront those who would twist it. The Guado remain one of Final Fantasy X's most haunting creations, a race at once mystical and broken, remembered for both their sacred duty and their tragic fall. And that concludes our deep dive into the race of the Guado. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more Final Fantasy content, and consider becoming a member to gain access to exclusive perks, and come check out my streams on Twitch every Wednesdays and Fridays. Link will be in the description below. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and that, as they say, is that.